Hello, hello, beautiful souls. Jeri Tourand here with Living from Heart Center. So I have a real treat for you today. It is my honor and my privilege to introduce you to my fantastic friend, Judy Walker. So some of you, if you're in my Unlimited Love coaching group, you've noticed that Judy is one of the administrators, and she's the one that's posting all of those fantastic, heart-centered, vulnerable posts about recovering from codependency. So I don't know how many of you can relate to having some codependent patterns in your life, in your relationships, and really are starting to realize that there's some pretty high prices that you're paying for those patterns, for upholding those patterns of codependency and really enabling or caretaking other people, lots of worry, lots of heaviness, lots of kind of being stuck in survival mode, like just getting through each day. So we are here today to help you free yourselves, to help you, number one, recognize if this is you, see if you can see yourself in any of this, and really free yourself to love yourself more, because the other side of codependency is what I'm all about, and I know what Judy's all about too. And it's like taking your power back and living an authentic, blessed, thriving life and really living in freedom. So it's freeing yourself, it's loving yourself, and so that you can be of service to others, so that your very presence is deeply healing, deeply loving, and this beautiful connection. So welcome, Judy. I'm so happy.
Thanks, Jeri. Thanks for having me here. It's very exciting to be able to speak of something that I'm so passionate about, which is coming back to self-love and coming back to the power that lives within me. So therefore I can give to others from that place.
Mhm.
Because as a codependent, my focus was constantly out there, trying to find love out there, trying to find acceptance and my worth in the people that were outside of me, not capable to look inside and find that within myself while I was in denial of codependency. I didn't even know what that word meant a year and a half ago. So I've come a long way, with the help of many people. Yeah, so
You have.
It's really great to talk about it and hopefully be of service with my experience, strength, and hope. Yeah, because that's what I can offer.
Experience, strength, and hope. Ah, yeah, breathe that one in. To be of service with that experience, that strength, and that hope, that everything that you have been through in your lives, there's a lesson, there's growth, there's learning, and it does enable you to assist other people to go through what you've been through, to know that they're not alone. Um, and I know that your blogs, your published articles, you're very popular in Elephant Journal. All of your articles being published there, and your blogs about codependency, about self-love, about relationship are just dead on. They just speak to me so much, and I know they speak to a lot of people in this tribe, really, that are on that path to greater self-love and deeper relationships. So I can't thank you enough, because I can't believe how open you are, how vulnerable you are, and how important that is. Just that vulnerability.
Yeah, it's so important, because when I lie to myself, I can't be authentic and I can't show up as fully myself. So when I out myself in my writing, in my articles, in my blog posts, in my Facebook posts, in the quotes that I make every day, it's coming from a place of really getting down and being honest about where am I hiding from myself, because sometimes I am so good at hiding. I'm so good at lying to myself, because being in that program, operating out of those old beliefs, is so much easier than stepping up and doing what is right for me. Because what I have been trained from the time I was a little girl is doing what's right for others. So there I can get back the love that I needed as a child. And just because I grew up didn't mean that I stopped doing that. That's a program that had been in place from the time I was a little kid. I was born to a 17-year-old mother. My father was an alcoholic. Their relationship was extremely dramatic, violent, emotionally, physically. So I grew up to be a caretaker of my mom. I grew up to be hypervigilant, making sure that I knew what moods were around me so I could either know when it's safe to ask something. Like if I wanted my mother to play with me, it was never safe to do it if I saw, let's say, her muscle um, pulsating in her cheek, or if she said that she had a headache. Like I had to really become furniture and become invisible because that's what was safe for me. So entering into adult relationships, that didn't stop. I still looked for love, acceptance, and validation in all of my partners. So I became um, an investigator. I became very knowledgeable about where they came from, what their childhoods were like. Did they come from an abusive family? Was there violence? You know, extremely fearful of any anger that I may have witnessed, because that was never safe. But what I didn't know is that the safety is here. I can't control what other people do. I can't control how other people will act. And when I put my trust out there, I will never be safe. So it's through the healing of the codependency and learning so much about self-love is that I was able to come back here and feel safe within my own heart that I had denied a lifetime, like
Mm.
well into my 50s. I wasn't sure who I was or what love was. I used to think it's my calling to find out where love lives. And I would look out there for love. You know, love is inside that person. Love is inside this man. Love is inside my children. Love is inside my role as a mother and a caregiver and a wife. And what I didn't realize was happening is I was erasing myself all along. And
Whoa.
I just became a chameleon of, you know, whatever anyone wanted me to be, I stepped up and I was. And self-love is impossible from that place because I didn't know what my values were. I didn't
Right.
know what I stood for. I didn't know what was right for me. So I would write in my articles and I would compare my childhood and who I was. Like I was furniture. I would just
Whoa.
blend in like
Mm-hmm.
furniture, you know? So I no longer feel sorry for me. I no longer hold a anger toward my parents. Early in my recovery, I was extremely angry because I wasn't allowed to feel angry as a child. So when I was given the permission to allow feelings to come up, when I learned the language of my body, when I learned that anger is simply energy, that it doesn't have to equate in violence. Anger is a sign that's telling me an injustice has been done. And it's an energy for me to take action. So I'm no longer scared of anger anymore. And if I see other people angry, it's not about me. And I don't make it about me. It's just like, you know, that's their side of the street. And I can remove myself and I don't have to fix them. I don't have to caretake them. I don't have to inquire about, you know, why are you so angry, and make it mine. So that's one of the things that codependent recovery has brought me is the ability to really check in with my body and know, like, where does anger live in my body, where does sadness live in my body. um
Mm.
yeah, like the ability to feel my feelings fully has been such a healing experience because, Jeri, I think you know this, healing is in the feeling. So when we allow ourselves to feel our feelings, I mean, we're well on our way to loving ourselves. Because when we deny our feelings by looking outside to relationships to fulfill us, or by, you know, drinking alcohol, or by overworking, or by throwing ourselves into charity work, or being the best mom at the school, or, you know, being the best wife and having the cleanest house on the block, we're just running from ourselves. We're just running
Oh
from
my
self-love.
gosh. Okay, you just hit on so much gold right there, and you're obviously totally speaking my language. We've kind of been on the same wavelength since we met, and we met at a relationship personal development 4-day retreat. So
Yeah, that was what, 5 years ago,
5 years ago,
6 years.
5 or 6, I don't
Yeah,
know, but it's,
yeah.
yeah, it's so time. It's so time for us to kind of step in, and I've been just dying to. I've been following you and watching you, and I know we've been friends all along. and you just have so much wisdom that you've gained. You have like so much experience, and the place that you speak from is the same place that you write from, and this is rare. Like for me to read somebody's writing and feel them in it and feel exactly what they're going through and just that resonance, it's amazing. And you speak from the same place. I love you so much. I love everything that you're sharing, and I feel like this is so pivotal. So that's where what I'm feeling right now is like that pivotal moment. Like when is that moment when you really realize that you needed some help? They were obviously paying some pretty high prices
Oh, yeah.
for this codependent
Hmm.
pattern that you carried really very innocently,
Hmm.
as you pointed out, from caretaking your own parents and having to be in that place of really you never getting to be a child,
Yeah, no, exactly.
right? So what was the turning point where you really realized that, yeah, I'm codependent, like, all right, there's something going on here that I need to free myself from?
Yeah, well, this is a funny story. Like I said, I didn't know what codependency meant like a year and a half ago. So at the beginning of 2020, I started a path of therapy with a couple of therapists, and I was under the impression that I was going to therapy to heal myself. At the time, I was in a relationship that I didn't know was unhealthy. What I knew is that my body was reacting in very strange ways. I was experiencing a lot of anxiety. I couldn't sleep at night. I had digestive issues. I was constantly in fight, flight, or freeze. I thought it was me. I thought there's nothing. What's wrong with me?
Mm.
Then I go to therapy, and everything I hear, I take back and I try to fix my partner. So it turned out that I wasn't there for me. I was there to collect information because I thought if I just fix my partner, who may be experiencing some difficulties with, whatever addictions or trauma from his childhood, if I had the tools to fix him,
Mm.
then I would be okay. So it didn't take long for my therapist to clue in. And I remember the day vividly. They said, um, you need to go to Codependence Anonymous, do 30 meetings in 30 days. And when you've done that, check in with us, and then you can come back to therapy. So I was basically thrown out of therapy and directed to go to Codependence Anonymous. So this was in the height of COVID. And because of COVID, there were dozens and dozens of online meetings of Codependence Anonymous. So I had no problem going to 30 meetings in 30 days. And it was life changing. From the very first meeting, I knew I found my community
Mm.
because the people who shared in those meetings were speaking my story.
Wow.
Everyone, every person who shared in each meeting had something that I lived through, that I experienced. And it was such a relief to not feel crazy, to not
Mm.
think that, oh my God, I'm the only one who is experiencing this craziness, this belief that if I only had the ability to fix everything outside of me, that I would be okay.
Yeah.
To be like, the way I look at it now is to live in true codependency is to be the puppet master of other people's lives.
Mm.
But
Control.
eventually, like, it's impossible to keep up. Eventually, the house of cards begins to fall apart. And that's what happened to me. So at the beginning of my journey to heal codependency, I had to go back from relationship to relationship to relationship until I found myself in my childhood and really sifting through all those traumatic experiences and admitting to myself that, I came from a dysfunctional family. I went through a lot of anger at my parents. I had to leave my relationship with my mom for about 6 months because I could not handle the anger I felt inside me because I felt abandoned. I felt neglected. I felt abused. And the conversations that she and I had before I made the decision to take a break from our relationships were really painful to her because she did the best she could But I only now was feeling the anger of being that little girl who didn't receive the love that she needed and was paying the price in her relationships. So I needed to go from blame to self help and self acknowledgement and self healing. So I no longer blame my mother. I love her and I respect her and I accept her exactly where she's at. And I'm taking responsibility for how I show up in my life and in my relationships as, a healing, loving person who's had a codependent experience and who sometimes still has codependent slips. And I think that's normal for everyone. Yes. I think everyone has codependent experiences in their lives to a lesser or a larger degree. And it takes a while to accept the fact that, yeah, we are acting out of codependency and we are controlling and we're doing this because we're scared of not having love in our lives, because we haven't learned, we've never been taught how to love ourselves. My mother never took me aside and asked me, what do you love about yourself? I think you're so great at these things. Do you see that? Do you see how great you're at singing? Do you see how great you are at taking care of your sister? I never got that. Like who of us have ever, had those really switched on parents who were able to look at us and see the light and the innocence and the beauty and the love inside us. Right. So this is how we're given the tools that we're given. And then we're just sent into the world, and that's how we live in our relationships until something terrible happens. We hit rock bottom and change needs to happen, because continuing with the same pattern no longer works. So that's how I got to know that I was codependent.
So breathe.
Thrown out of therapy.
Oh, that's amazing. Like, wow. What courage to do that for those therapists to just say, like, hey, this is enough. Here's what we're hearing. This is what you need, and to be so bold. And then you to trust them enough, like, to do it, right?
Yeah.
And not be angry or pissed off.
Yeah. I mean, I've had 2 marriages, 2 long-term relationships. None of them worked. So I am the common denominator. So there's,
yeah,
so I really had to look at myself, because what else? There's nothing else left.
Yeah. And like you said, from that space of innocence, like recognizing where codependency is birthed, and our parents doing the best they can, where their parents didn't love themselves. They didn't know how to teach them how to do that. Yeah, exactly. And it's just been passed on from generation to generation. And we're getting to that place in reality, in our civilization and in humanity, where we are going through kind of the breakthrough globally. And so these things are finally available for healing. It's coming up to heal. And just, I love how you said you went back into your childhood, like you found yourself back there and you started to recognize your innocence and start building self-love, a self-loving relationship with yourself.
And I mean, it takes such courage to be able to go back and to not necessarily relive the pain, but acknowledge it. Like, yes, this is what happened to me. And it's made me into the person who I am today. So not living from a place of blame, like I said before, but like self-responsibility and self-acceptance and learning how to love myself, because the journey to recover from codependency truly is to bring the life back in here, to bring love in here, and learning how to take care of myself rather than constantly taking care of others has been one of the biggest lessons. Because when I take the time to do what is right for me, I check in with my body, I check in with my heart, I check in with my mind, I check in with myself spiritually. Have I been filling my cup from all these different directions? And when my cup is overflowing, then I can give from that overflow. Like it doesn't go away, but I need to keep filling it, right? So it's not a matter of being selfish and just constantly looking after myself. It's a matter of taking care of myself. So from that place, I can be of service to others. So I'm not depleting myself and not like, if there's a hole in my bucket, if there's a hole in my cup, it doesn't matter how much other people put in it. It's just going to keep flowing out. it's my responsibility to mend that hole, fill my cup, and from the overflow, give to others, because then I'm constantly being myself.
Mm.
And from that place, I can give to others. Yeah.
Ah, yeah. Well, I know this is resonating for people. It's definitely resonating for me. I even noticed a few times I was kind of holding my breath listening to you. I'm like, so I want to tell everyone just, okay, breathe. Just take that breath and you really are okay. You are so held, you are so loved, and you are so safe here. And we need to find that. You need to find that place where you are held, you are safe, and you are loved. And you found that for yourself.
Mm.
Congratulations. That's really, the first step. Um, so yeah, if we were just going to like, because some people are just like, oh my gosh, I can kind of feel this, the energy when people watch this of like, like she's speaking straight to me. It's like she's in my head. How does she know all this stuff? So let's sort of unpack it a little bit. And so what are some of the signs that, if people are kind of wondering, all right, is this my pattern? Like, what would some of the signs be, the primary signs of being stuck in a codependent pattern?
Um, so I can speak from my experience. Um, I didn't know how I was feeling from one moment to the next. I would usually take on the feelings of others and then make those mine. Because
Mm,
then what I could do is just kind of morph myself into what they needed me to be. So if my partner was unhappy, I would feel unhappy. When my partner was happy, I would be happy. But I never asked myself, like, is that what I'm feeling? Like, did I not walk into his house feeling happy and all of a sudden I feel miserable? Like what that's all about.
mm,
Um,
big one.
the the need to people please is really a huge pattern of codependency, because when I believed if I did for others what I thought they needed me to do, if I didn't even need ask for permission. I
Mm,
would just do for others because I thought, well, if I do for them, then they will love me. The, the problem with that is that it wasn't really from the heart, because I would give and give and give and give with maybe sometimes the unconscious agenda that I would get back. So I remember saying to my partner one day, you will never find anyone who will love you as much as I do. Well, that's a statement that's packed with so much codependency and so much like unconscious. I wanted him to know like how much I loved him because I didn't feel loved back. So it was a guilt trip. It was like,
mm,
know what you have because no one will ever love you the way that I love you. So it was a very codependent way of keeping him with me and at the same time pushing him away, because who wants somebody that clingy, right?
so true. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do have it written down, like all the various different things. So also not being able to make decisions.
Mm,
Jeri and I talked about this before. Let's say we're, trying to decide where we're going to go for lunch. Oh, it doesn't matter, whatever you want. Oh, it doesn't matter, whatever you want. And so one of us has to take a stand, and
yes.
making decisions for codependent is really difficult, because what if my decision doesn't match up the other people's decisions and I will displease them for some reason, or they'll be angry at me, right? So that's
Yes.
one of them. I mentioned identifying our feelings is difficult for a codependent.
Mhm.
Um, Difficulty communicating, because I don't know who I am, because I don't know what my values and principles are. I can't communicate what I want. I can't communicate what I need. I don't know what my needs are because my needs are so closely tied to the needs of the other person.
Yeah.
Um, Lacking trust. Lacking trust was so huge for me. In my last relationship, I can't tell you how often my intuition would be blaring. The sirens would be blaring. The red lights would be twirling. And I would like be in denial. No, no, he's telling me that's not so. No, what he's telling me the truth. And yet my body was, I had digestive issues. I had anxiety issues. Everything in my body was telling me this is not safe. And yet I
Mm,
didn't trust myself. I didn't know how to trust my body. So, learning the language of my body, which is nonverbal, is huge for codependent, because then I can
Huge.
be in touch with my feelings, in touch with my intuition, in touch with my spiritual guidance, right? And I think for codependence, I was totally disconnected from my body. I didn't know.
I can
Um,
relate, definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So having huge fear of abandonment as a child, I was so scared of being left behind. Um, I'll tell a personal story. I think it's okay. It's my story to tell. So my mom was very young when she got pregnant. She was 16 years old. Of course, she didn't know I was inside her. She was scared. My father was 20. This was in the 60s in a communist country. She tried to abort the pregnancy with like home remedies.
Mm.
So she took hot baths. She was on my dad's motorcycle with a rucksack full of bricks, trying to dislodge this fetus that was
Wow.
possibly going to change her life forever.
Mm.
And I don't know, like this is just my thought that I wasn't wanted. From the very moment that I was conceived, I wasn't wanted. And then because of my parents and their relationship being so chaotic, so dramatic, so violent, I was scared. I was scared I was going to lose my mom. I was scared that my dad was going to kill my mom. So that's a huge
Mm.
abandonment fear, right? Like I wasn't going to have a parent. So, and that carries into our romantic relationships.
Mm.
I operated from a place of fear I was going to be left behind. So anytime my partner would say, I'm leaving, I would revert into
Yeah.
my little girl who was scared that she was going to be left behind. I didn't operate from a place of a 55-year-old wisdom. I operated from a place of a 5-year-old fear. And like there is no communication in that place, right? All I could do was just curl up on the floor and cry. That's all I could do. And all of my power would then be in my partner's hands. I had no power in my relationships because I couldn't stand up as the woman that I am, today.
Whew. Yeah. Wow.
Another thing,
Thank
oh
you.
yes, doing for others what they can do for themselves. I think a lot of women do this, right?
Parents.
Especially for children. um, I have 3 children, 29, 21, and 19. The 19-year-old is the hardest because I still see him as my baby. And I
Mm.
still do for him the things that I know he can do for himself. But part of me still wants to like cling on to him because he's my last baby. So I
Mm.
really have to check in with myself and ask myself, is this something that he can do for himself? Am I enabling him? Like, am I
Mm.
taking away his ability to be a grown ass man because I'm codependent and I don't want him to leave me? So, yeah, like allowing others to do for themselves what they can do for themselves. So,
Yeah.
again, like letting control go. Um,
Yeah, it's scary at the
yeah.
risk that they're going to screw up, and but that's actually exactly what they need is to keep their power intact,
Hmm.
not have to worry about, is mom agree with this? Is mom, what's she going to
Yeah.
think if I make this decision? But actually having them just check within and do what we weren't able to do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Make our own decisions,
Yeah. And it's,
and just go direct, right? Not go through mom, not go through
yeah.
dad,
And
but
it's tricky because even I can share another personal story. So a few weeks ago, my son was invited to go to the lake. It was in the middle of the heat wave. It was so hot. We have no air conditioning. So his friends decided they're going to go to the lake. So the problem was there were 6 of them in a 5-passenger vehicle. So of
mm,
course, inside of me, I'm going, it's unsafe. They could get into an accident. I already saw him like going through the windshield because he
mhm.
was the one who's going to have to sit on someone's lap. So I am reining myself in. And he goes, Mom, what should I do? So taking a breath,
Loaded question.
right? Loaded question, because everything in me wants to say, it's not safe. You shouldn't go. You got to stay home with me where I can keep an eye on you, right? No. So what I said, okay, well, here are the facts. The facts are there's 6 of you, there's 5 seatbelts. So if you choose to go and you choose to sit on someone's lap, You could get caught by the police. You could get a ticket. The driver could get a ticket. God forbid you could get into an accident and get hurt. So these are the facts based
Yeah.
on my experience. Now, you choose what you want to do,
Mm.
right? So, not telling him what's right or wrong, just setting out the facts based on my experience. And he looked at me because I enabled him in the past, because I did for him in the past. He said, Mom, but I want you to tell me what to do. I
Yeah.
said, sweetheart, you have all the knowledge you need inside of you. Just trust that. And he chose to go. And I had to be okay with that. And when he got back and everything was fine, he was safe. And he said to me, Mom, I am so glad I went. I'd been so
Mm.
starved for connection with my friends. And it was so much fun. So it was the right thing for him, not the right thing for me. And sometimes as parents, it's really, really hard to let our kids do what's right for them and not
Mm.
impose, our opinions and our control onto them. So codependency is, just as relevant to romantic relationships as it is to our relationships with our parents, with our children, with our friends. We can be codependent in our workplace.
Mm.
Like, it can show up anywhere, any
Wow.
place we can have relationships, codependency can rear its head.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
Wow. I
welcome.
love the way you handled that with your son. And yeah, I have 3 daughters, so for sure I've had to rein myself in a few times, and there is an adjustment period. So when you
Mhm.
finally start to recognize those patterns of enabling and being codependent, yeah, they're wanting you to tell them what to do.
Oh
That's what
yeah.
they're used to. It's like, you're my parent, you're supposed to, you tell me. And those magic words, like just saying, sweetie, you have everything within you that you need to make the best decision for you. Like, I don't live in your body. I can't possibly know what's best for you. Only
Mhm.
you can know that, and you have everything you need. You've got this. I trust you. And our kids don't need our answers. They don't need our worry. That's fear.
Yeah.
They need to be loved and believed in. They need to know that we believe in them,
Mhm.
that we love them, and just, yeah, just
Yeah.
trust, right? Trust them, trust source. They have a divine connection just like
Yeah.
we do. And we're not meant to be the go between them and their divine connection, because that
Oh
actually
yeah.
prevents them from thriving,
Mhm.
and it leaves them stuck in safety and survival. And is that really what you want? Is your kid to always be safe? Or do you want them to be happy and to
Oh yeah.
thrive?
Yeah.
So there's like, yeah, that's been just such a big thing for me. And I've had to revisit it and revisit it and revisit it. So this isn't just some linear process.
No. Oh no. 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 Yeah. This is a process that takes a long time. And Jerry and I had a conversation about, can we heal from codependency? Like, can at some point say, I am no longer codependent?
Mhm.
And I don't have an answer because I'm 16 months, 17 months into my recovery from codependency. So I don't really know. I don't
Mhm.
know whether there is a healing, but I am open. My son even asked me, Mom, are you going to be continuing to go to these CODA meetings forever? And my instant answer was, well, of course, I'm codependent. But like, thinking back on it and thinking on like
Mm.
self-love and healing, maybe I won't have to. Maybe it will morph into something else. Maybe it will morph into like being of service to other people
Mm.
who are experiencing the same things that I experience, and that continuing to heal from that place, right? Because I think you said it once, we teach what we need to learn ourselves. So
Mhm.
once I get to the point where I believe maybe I've, learned all I need to learn, maybe I'll continue to learn more by being of service to others, because through the experience of others, I will learn even more lessons, right? Because I mean, there's a
100%.
limit to how much I can learn because my experience is limited to me.
Right.
But when I'm there with other people and hearing their stories of experience, strength, and hope, then I can be of service as well. So it's like
100%.
this sort of this
Yeah.
beautiful weave of, this connection that we all have, because I just get goosebumps
Yes.
because
I
we're all
know.
connected. Like, we're never ever alone.
Mm.
Never alone.
Yeah, and you only need to be a step ahead of the people that you're helping and holding space for.
Yeah.
You don't need to be done.
Exactly.
You know, you can still identify yourself as having some
Mhm.
codependent patterns. I don't like saying I'm a codependent. I like to say,
Yeah.
yes, that's my default. Yes, I've
Yeah.
had those patterns. I know exactly what Judy's talking
Yeah.
about. Um, but yeah, I absolutely feel like you can get to this place of self-love where that it isn't really a thing. It's not a label that we need to use
Yeah.
anymore. But you're not there till you're there,
Mhm.
and you won't know till you know.
But it's
And in the
definitely,
meantime, you have to look at the yucky stuff. You have to be
yes,
willing to get honest with
get
yourself,
honest.
and have
Mhm.
that tribe that can remind you that you're not that.
Mhm.
Just because you have those patterns, just because that was birthed way back in childhood when you were totally innocent and you had no choice, doesn't mean you're necessarily stuck with it for life.
Mhm.
It isn't who you are at your core,
Yeah. No,
right?
I really, yeah, you've made
It's
me think about that. You
it's a
have.
pattern, it's an
Yeah.
experience, a life
Mhm.
experience. It's really an experience is for wisdom, to gain wisdom. And
Mhm.
oh my, and I just, you sharing all of your wisdom and just vulnerably every single step of the way is profound and so powerful and so deeply healing, not just for you, but for everyone. So
Oh.
I know that you're going through this. You're taking a kind of a hit for all of us. What we go through is actually, as when those of us that are willing to just take it on and say, all right, this is what is. I might as well embrace it. It's here for a
Mhm.
reason,
Mhm.
and work our way through that. We're making it available for so many others, like, because then it's now in the field. We're like
Yeah.
role modeling that this is possible, and if it's possible for you, it's possible for me, it's possible for so many. And yeah, it's been a journey for myself. And I remember having to look up, okay, so what even is this codependency? Kind of like you, not even that long ago. I'm like, oh yeah, totally. That was my tendency. That was a pattern for me as well. Absolutely. And does it ever creep in still? Yeah, there's little tendencies where, but I'm conscious of it.
Mhm.
And like you said, you constantly having to check in, having to keep your cup full, that's your responsibility, not someone else's. Like those are the exact same things I've gone through, not in the name of recovering from codependency, because I didn't really understand that,
Mhm.
but in the name of loving myself and
Yeah.
recovering from being a people pleaser and an enabler. And which is all kind of overlaps, doesn't
Mhm.
it?
Yep. Yep.
So
Like the importance of staying in my own lane, taking care of my side of the street. Because the minute I start taking care of somebody else's side of the street, I'm in trouble. So knowing those signs, and when I take the time to practice self care, those situations happen less and less frequently because I'm giving from that place of overflow rather
mm,
than from an empty and depleted self. So it's really important for me. Yeah.
yeah, thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think you've kind of covered it. Anything that I was thinking of asking, like, yeah, the steps, the importance of self-care, like those first steps to
Hmm.
just to find that tribe, to be willing to get honest with yourself, to get that you're not alone, and it doesn't mean that you're broken and need
No.
fixing. It means you're human
Yeah.
and you're going through this human experience right along with the rest of us.
Yeah. And I just wanted to add, the codependent traits that we adopted in childhood kept us safe.
Yeah.
They were of use at that time. They're no more. They're not useful anymore in adulthood, in our adult relationships. They outlived their purpose. So it's really, it's been such an amazing journey to return to me, to discover who I am, and to be able to say and like truly believe it. I like me. I like what I stand for. I like my values and my principles. It's allowed me to leave that toxic relationship with my dignity intact,
Mm,
and not go back out of fear. I couldn't have done it without doing the work. I really could not have done it without being in that place of self-love and self-respect. That's,
mm.
yeah.
So, yeah,
So
it's making the commitment, making the decision that you're
mhm,
worth it,
yeah.
and that willingness to take those steps to dive a bit into the darkness and make sure that you have someone that can discuss that with you, that can pull you back out, that can remind you that everything's okay, that you are safe.
Mhm.
So thank you for pointing that out, that it kept us safe,
Yeah,
and it
that's
no
right.
longer does. It doesn't serve us anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a kind of a great way to end. So any final thoughts before we
Yeah, so
sign off?
if any of you are curious about what codependency is, there is lots of information on coda.org, and it will go through all the different codependent patterns. So you can just click on the patterns of codependency and go down the list to see, oh, do I resonate with any of this? Codecanada.ca is the Canadian organization where you can find Zoom meetings. You can just log in as like a first time newcomer. You can just jump
Hmm.
in on one meeting, see if it's for you. There are in person meetings in Edmonton. I know of two of them. One is at the Lano Club on Mondays at 7, and the other one is at the Strathcona Church, I think, on Wednesdays at 7:30. So the in person meetings are opening up. If I am
Hmm.
open to speaking with any of you about my experience, strength, and hope, if you want to just get a hold of me over Messenger, Judy Walker, I'm on Facebook. I would be happy to speak with you. We can set up a scheduled time and just have a conversation about where you're at, and if I can, be of support. I would so be honored to
Hmm.
help, not help, to be of support. I just want to be of support because I'm not an expert in codependent healing and recovery. I'm just a survivor, and I'm working on myself and working on self-love so I can come from that place of experience, strength, and hope. So that's
Hmm.
all I have to say about
Yay. Thank you.
that.
Some great resources. So definitely Judy Walker. You can reach out to Judy and get in touch with some Coda groups. And I'm hoping to kind of, warm Judy up into offering a bit of a course, to help you move through those difficult times with a group, with support, and maybe put a course out there on how to step into greater self love and recognize and move away from the pattern of codependency. So watch for that.
Yay!
And for sure, check out Judy's blog too, Life Apprentice.
Lifeapprentice.net. It has a lot of my articles that are focused on codependency, on toxic relationships. I wrote a lot while I was in that relationship, unaware of the toxicity, trying to wiggle my way out.
Mm.
Um, and then you'll probably notice sort of a movement towards self-healing and self-love as the articles progress. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're fantastic. Like I every so often I just have to go and visit and read through these blogs, and whenever she has a new article on Elephant Journal, they're fantastic. I post them in the Unlimited Love Coaching for Awakening Souls group. So if you're not a member yet, I'll make sure that I put the link below so that you can become a member. Like I said, Judy's admin, and so she is posting regularly those articles, those tips, those quotes that are fantastic. They're just gonna really assist if this has been speaking to you today. So thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Such a
Thank you,
pleasure. This was
everyone.
great.
Yeah, it is great. Like, I'm just like, I don't want to leave. It's a
Yeah.
safe, supportive space, right? It's so great. So anyway, I look forward to doing some more work with you,
Yeah,
Judy,
same here.
and
Thanks, Jeri.
hopefully some of you will join us on that journey. So lots of love.
Okay.
Have a great rest of your day and week. We wish you well.
Yes.
Blessings.